Passengers using Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport have been told to expect major delays after a total power failure overnight led to the airport being closed. Although the problem's now been fixed, there were long hold-ups with some people abandoning their cars and heading to the airport on foot. An airport spokesperson said it's one of the busiest days at Schiphol Airport, and then something like this happens, a power outage which knocked out your check-in systems. It goes downhill from there, but the safety of the passengers comes first. It's an unfortunate decision to close the airport. The power outage shortly before 1 o'clock led to Schiphol terminals being evacuated. Passengers have been talking about their experiences. We got to the car park, then we got here. Until then everything went fine, but then we heard the announcement that it got cancelled. We're going to Copenhagen and from there to Boston, but now we've probably missed our transfer. We don't know if we're going to get there, but we'll see. The power failure also affected around 18,000 homes in Bijlmer. Some flights have been delayed and others cancelled altogether. And airport officials say all incoming flights will face reduced capacity.
The North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, says he plans to invite experts and journalists from the United States and South Korea when the country closes its nuclear test site in May. The South Korean presidential press officer said, during the Inter-Korean summit, the North Korean chairman, Kim Jong-un, said his country will shut down its northern nuclear test site in May and make the process transparent to the international community. Kim has also reaffirmed that he would never use military force against the South and raised the need for an institutional mechanism to prevent unintended escalations. Thousands took to the streets in the Spanish city of Pamplona for the third day running after a court cleared 5 men of the gang rape of a teenager at the 2016 San Fermin bull running festival. Prosecutors had asked for 20-year sentences. Instead, the men were given 9 years for the lesser charge of sexual abuse. This protester said, "We believe this sentence is intolerable because the crime that happened in San Fermin wasn't a sexual abuse. Clearly, there were so many incoherencies on the sentence. We see it as justice still being patriarchal. We see this as being deeply rooted. It isn't normal that half the population feel fear. Fear of walking alone at night in the streets. It isn't normal you have to be accompanied when you want to return home." The so-called Wolfpack case has already sparked widespread anger across Spain following concern over increased reports of sexual attacks at the annual festival and over the mistreatment of women in general.
Anti-government protesters in Armenia took to the streets again on Sunday, heeding calls from opposition leader Nikol Pashinyan for further non-violent demonstrations. Pashinyan's supporters are demanding that he's elected Prime Minister despite him not having the support of Parliament. Protests have continued for almost 2 weeks following corruption allegations surrounding the ruling Republican Party. Attempts by the government to calm the protests with the resignation of Serge Sargsyan, who'd been appointed as Prime Minister after being President for 10 years, proved insufficient. Instead, Pashinyan called on supporters to step up their protests in the capital Yerevan on May the 1st, when the new Prime Minister is due to be chosen. As well as marches, protesters blocked roads in the capital by sitting on crossings to obstruct traffic.
It's said to be one of the most active volcanoes in the world. Le Piton de la Fournaise on Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean started spewing lava on Friday and continued into the weekend. And there was a spectacular light show for those who ventured out. This woman said, "My husband is from Reunion Island and we come here once or twice a year. I've never had the opportunity to admire the show, and as soon as I heard the noise, we jumped into the car. I'm very moved and happy to be here. I'm tired and I won't sleep tonight." In the last 6 years, the volcano has blown its top 15 times, each occasion attracting thousands of sightseers.
From the lakes of Minnesota.
US President Donald Trump is stepping up the war of words on trade, this time threatening to take on the European Union. Addressing a rally in Michigan, the US President accused the EU of putting up trade barriers.
You know why? I mean, they literally did, like I said, they formed to take advantage of the United States. And I don't blame them. You know what? I don't blame them. I don't blame President Xi. I don't blame Prime Minister Abe of Japan. I don't blame the heads of these countries for taking advantage of us. I blame past presidents and past leaders of our country.
The European Union was temporarily spared from a round of tariffs on aluminium and steel imports in March, although that exemption is due to expire on Tuesday.
The UN Security Council envoy has begun a visit to Bangladesh and Myanmar to witness the aftermath of the alleged ethnic cleansing of Rohingya Muslims by the Myanmar military. They are due to meet the Bangladesh PM Sheikh Hasina and Myanmar's de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi before travelling to Rakhine State. Close to 700,000 Rohingyas have fled to camps in Bangladesh since the military operation began in August last year. Many of the refugees are eagerly awaiting the arrival of UN envoys in hopes they can attain Myanmar citizenship and regain the possessions and property they left behind.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met with Mike Pompeo as part of the new US Secretary of State's whistle-stop tour of the region. The conversation with the Israeli leader included the controversial American embassy move to Jerusalem, bilateral relations and regional conflicts. But the biggest area of discussion was about Iran and the future of the nuclear deal. Pompeo and Netanyahu both hinted at a tough new line.
We remain deeply concerned about Iran's dangerous escalation of threats to Israel and the region, and Iran's ambition to dominate the Middle East remains. The United States is with Israel in this fight, and we strongly support Israel's sovereign right to defend itself.
President Trump has suggested he'll scrap the deal and impose fresh sanctions on Iran, and Netanyahu said the country's threat should be taken seriously.
Mr. Secretary, I think the greatest threat to the world and to our two countries, and to all countries, is the marriage of militant Islam with nuclear weapons, and specifically the attempt of Iran to acquire nuclear weapons.
Mike Pompeo, who was only sworn in last Thursday, is part way through a short tour which includes Saudi Arabia, Israel and Jordan. He's thought to be gauging the views of leaders in the three countries, who are all close allies of the US, ahead of Trump's decision on the Iran nuclear deal.
Espacio comercial, ahora nos ve el resumen deportivo.